So now we are going to conduct an activity indicating the presence of starch in the leaves. So how we'll do that? So as we all know, in any food, if we are going to test the presence of starch in 6th standard, we have done that. We'll take a food sample, say for example rice or potato, add some few drops of iodine to that. So this particular mixture, the mixture of the food sample and the few drops of iodine, will change into bluish black color. So the indication is that bluish change into bluish black color is the indication of the presence of starch in the certain substance which we have taken. Similarly, for plants, we are going to do the same experiment. Take two potted plants of the same kind, keep one in the dark for 72 hours and other in the sunlight. So we are going to prove that in this experiment we are going to be able to understand that only in the presence of sunlight, only in the presence of the raw material sunlight, that is the source of energy, there is going to be the production of starch. So we are going to perform the iodine test with leaves of both plants. Okay. So now we record the result. So when we see that, we are able to observe that only in the leaf which has been placed in the sunlight, the color change is being observed. That is, the formation of the food products, that is the carbohydrate or starch in the leaf, is possible only in the presence of sunlight, whereas the one which is kept inside the dark room will not show any color change because there is no reaction like photosynthesis happening in that. So photosynthesis takes place only in the presence of the raw materials, especially we need sunlight for that. So this particular activity is mentioning the importance of the sunlight energy for the photosynthesis process. Now if we see, there are other modes for nutrition in plants. So other than autotrophic mode of nutrition, some other plants like insectivorous plants, picture plant, will take up the insect as their food. So this is kind of a heterotrophic nutrition where the plant is dependent upon the other living organism for its food rather than synthesizing on its own. It's dependent upon insect or some other living organism for the survival, hence it is sometimes heterotrophic too. So we can see here that like plants and animals, such plants depend on the food produced by other plants, that is heterotrophic. We can give a very good example, that is picture plant, where it is dependent upon the insect for its food supply needs. So if we see here, there is a plant called as Cuscuta that doesn't have a chlorophyll. So what it does is that it will climb upon the host and it will be dependent upon the host for its survival needs. So this is like a host, it is taking the nutrition from the host plant because it doesn't have the property of production of chlorophyll on its own. So that particular plant is said to be a parasite, and where it lives upon, that plant is said to be the host plant. So this is the case of Cuscuta. Now we are coming to the another property, that is the insectivorous plant. That is, insect eating plants are said to be insectivorous plants, like a pitcher plant. The lid closes and trap the insect once it gets into the lid. Once it gets into the once a insect come and land to the plant, the lid is being closed and the insect is getting digested with the help of digestive juices. So this is the mode of nutrition. It is a kind of heterotrophic nutrition where it's dependent upon the insects. So here the images have been given for the pitcher plant where there is a lid present. So this is a modification of leaf. The leaf has been modified in such a form that where it can open and close automatically when there is a presence of insect inside that sac like structure. Next mode of nutrition is said to be saprotrophs. Saprotrophs are those which dependent upon the dead and decaying matter for meeting their nutritional support. So these are very essential for the environment. Why? Because they act like the scavengers which clean up the environment. So once the living organism or a plant has been dead, we need saprophytic organisms so that they can cleanse up the environment. So if we see here, if we observe a pack of mushroom or bread mold fungi, those are having a saprophytic nutrition. So this mode of nutrition is that where the organisms will take up the nutrients from the dead and decaying matter. So these are said to be saprotrophs, and the mode of nutrition is saprotrophic nutrition. So why they are necessary for the environment? As I already said, they act like scavengers who cleanse up the environment, and they are necessary for the cleaning of environment. So for that, another activity is given. Take a piece of bread and moisten it with water. Why? Because moisture and humidity is the most important factor for the growth of the fungal patches. So leave it in a moist warm place for 2 to 3 days unless fluffy patches appear on them. So what is the color of these patches? So generally it is greenish in color, right? We would have observed this in sometimes in our food materials. So while we consume this, this will harm our body. So such foods should be avoided. So this is said to be the bread mold fungi. Now next we are going to see about another mode of nutrition, that is symbiosis. So symbiosis is a relationship where two living organisms live like a friend. They cooperate with each other. So say for example, they will share their food and shelter with each other. So in this case we are going to see about the case of a certain fungi which live inside the root of plants. Also the case of root nodules. So the organism called lichens, a chlorophyll containing partner which is alga and a fungus will live together, and together the combination of this algae and fungi is said to be lichens or lichens. So there is another one important example, that is about the rhizobium. So how nutrients are replenished in the soil. Say for example, the nutrients and the nitrogen present in the environment cannot be consumed by the plants directly. So the bacteria called as rhizobium present in the soil will be helping the plant to absorb the atmospheric nitrogen so that it can survive. So, the nitrogen present in the atmosphere is not directly being consumed by the plant, so it has to be converted into some other consumable form. So for this process the bacteria rhizobium is helping the plant, and in fact the rhizobium plant or the rhizobium bacteria is getting back the shelter and food from the plant. So they will have a mutual relationship between them, both get benefited from this kind of relationship, and that is known as a symbiotic relationship. So here we can see that plants absorb minerals and nutrients from the soil. So fertilizers and manures contain nutrients such as nitrogen, potassium and phosphorus, that is NPK. So here we can grow plants and keep them healthy if the nutrient is properly required by the plant. So in such cases, leguminous plants require nitrogen from the atmosphere, which is not being consumable in the direct form. So the nitrogen should be made in a soluble form, and that is possible. The atmospheric nitrogen is converted to the useful form by a bacteria called as rhizobium. So this rhizobium will convert the nitrogen to the usable form, and it will provide to the leguminous plant so that the plant can grow. And at the same time the rhizobium bacteria is getting benefited by taking up the shelter from the plant structure, that is it will live in the root and make and form the root nodules, and they will survive there. Also they get the nutrients also. Food and shelter has been taken up by the bacteria from the plant, and in return is giving the consumable form of or the soluble form of nitrogen from the atmosphere to the plant. So they are mutually living. So there is a mutual benefit between the leguminous plant and the rhizobium bacteria. That relationship is called a symbiotic relationship, where both the organisms are getting benefited. So there are another topic discussed, that is all animals are categorized as heterotrophs because they are dependent upon the plants and other animals for foods. They are generally said to be consumers, and the plant is said to be the producer. So we'll see the summary, that is all organisms need food and utilize it to get energy for growth and maintenance of the body. Green plants synthesize food for themselves by the process of photosynthesis, hence they are called autotrophs.